the longer I've done this, the more I prioritize. And even if you are track and speed and power, the other days need to be restorative.
Yes.
And well, how do you do that better? And it
Yep.
was a conversation with Ty Terrell, who I know is in
Oh
that
yeah.
tree in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, yeah.
And him and I were talking, and it's like, in some ways you're almost you have the hat of being an early stance coach.
Yeah,
Because,
absolutely.
yeah, because if you just keep taking already explosive athletes who are already filling that bucket, and it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do more stuff that pushes you forward. Anyways, I
Yeah.
digress.
Yeah, no, I
Your
know exactly what you
go-tos
mean. Yep.
for what are some of the ways you love to help restore those movement options in athletes who are already filling that explosive bucket, or if it's just a recovery day?
Yeah.
What's some of your favorite ways to restore options and to push the center of mass back so that they can be better for the explosive work on the other days?
Yeah. Yeah. The way I think about it, and I don't mind the term early stance, and I know that's Bill's like preferred term, but I think what resonates more with athletes now is I talk about balancing propulsion and braking, right? Which are, kind of like scientifically appreciated terms. There you see people talking about braking versus propulsion. But yes, I think of it a lot like, hey, you're already great at propulsing, right? And I just think of it as a bell curve, right? Hey, at a certain point, we've maxed the benefits out. Now we're going too far in that direction. And so now we're pushing you so far forward, you're losing mobility, you're losing movement options. So I always talk about this balance between braking and propulsion. And so I just kind of think back to, okay, well, what do the bulk of my first programs look like? Especially when somebody comes back and they've just played, say, pro basketball or pro soccer for 8, 9, 10 months. Reverse sled drags. We just talked about that, right? And I got 5 or 6 different variations depending on what that person needs. But a lot of sessions, we're going to start with that. Actually, even before that, something I'll send a lot of my athletes, but I call it my ground prep series. But it's this like little sequence that I have athletes do like in between. They've just done some resets before they do their full like dynamic warm up where they're up and moving around this ground prep series where it's like cat camels, rock and rolls, arm bar series, that sort of thing. All of those things that kind of get them to create space on the backside, shift their center of gravity back, kind of bridges the gap. So I really like that early in an off season. Sled drags. I love anterior loaded squat variations. We've talked about that. And then it just comes back to like, how bad is their squat? And I'm not even joking, right? Because like some guys come back, you know what I mean? It's like there's some guys where I've coached them so long. I had this guy this last year, Ed. And man, I've coached Ed 7 or 8 years now. He played in the CBA this year, the Chinese Basketball Association, and man, he got a lot of minutes. Like this guy was playing 38, 40 minutes every night. And it's weird because he has this gap in his season where for 2 months, it's every other night. Like he played like 30 games in like 60 days. And I mean, high usage. Then he gets like a month off because it's the Chinese New Year. So he comes back. And I'm like, dude, he looks like an accordion, Like he's so bent over. So like literally we're starting with, a plate reaching squat or, like a low cable squat variation on slant boards to where we can shift him back as much as possible and just try and unlock his body and, recapture those level changes. So, anterior loaded squat variations based on where they're at and how they're moving are a big one. Either front foot elevated or front heel elevated split squat variations. I love all of those. Another one that I've kind of added more into the list here lately are like wall supported hack squats, with like a foam roller. We've been doing a lot more of that because if you think about it, braking is really either the arms and or the legs being in front of the body, right? And so there you've got, and I used to do this when I was training in-home clients back in like 2005. I would do these with people because they didn't have a squat rack. And now I'm like, oh wait, this is like a really valid option because now these people can find their heels, right? They can stay back. They can keep the backside of their body open. We can train legs a little bit without some of the spinal compression. So, all of those things work well. And then when I'm thinking like upper body, I'm thinking push-up variations, obviously because you can get that reach and open up the backside. I love exercises where we're getting rotation through the thorax. So a lot of times that ends up being cable variations, cable rows, cable pull downs, anything where we can get that thorax to start moving again. I'm just thinking first block is recapture, braking, shift center of gravity back, however you want to think about it, because if you shift center of gravity back, you give them back those movement options, you recapture rotation, and immediately they're going to feel better.